What is going on, everybody? Welcome to a very special episode of the Crack-A-Pack series because we are opening up a pack of Wordwake, not something that we get to open very often. I know I say that a lot because we really do just kind of get a huge random selection of these, but this is truly a special pack. I'm really excited to open this one. Hopefully we get something very high value. There's a lot of value in this set. I hope you guys are doing very, very well. Today we are going to go through this as if it is a pack one, pick one scenario, so we'll do the best we can to figure out what our pack one, pick one would actually be if we were drafting this set. Did not draft during this time. I collected a little bit during this time. However, I don't know some of the flagship cards and stuff like that, so we're kind of going through this blind, but we'll do it together. Hopefully it'll be fun. Our first card here is Wind Zendikon. It is 1 blue for an enchant land. The enchanted land is a 2/2 blue elemental creature with flying. It is still a land. When the land is put into the graveyard, return that card to its owner's hand. I actually like this as just a 1-drop. It's surprisingly not bad. Obviously, it opens yourself up to being 2 for 1 on the land side of things, which is really bad and limited. But it is efficient. It's sort of high cost, high reward, at least in the turn 1 of the game. It's not so great in the late game. It is just a 2/2, obviously. But it does make use of an early game land or something like that. It's not bad. Probably not first pickable, obviously, but it's not bad. Dead Reckoning, sorcery for 1 and 2 black. You may put target creature card from your graveyard on top of your library. If you do, Dead Reckoning deals damage equal to that card's power to target creature. Really like this card. So not only are you able to pull back a creature card from your graveyard, put it back on top of your deck, which means they're going to have to deal with it again, but you can use that as a kill spell depending on how strong that creature is, and I really, really like that. Obviously, you're dependent on the cards that are in your graveyard, so it's very dead if you just don't have anything there, and very minor. It's probably not the best in the early turns of the game, so 3 mana is deceptively cheap, but you are reliant on the cards that are in your graveyard. So I do like this. High risk, high reward a little bit again, but I think it's definitely better than the Wind Zendikon, so far that's going to be the pick. Join the Ranks is 3 and a white for an instant. Put 2 1/1 white soldier ally creature tokens onto the battlefield. I might be mistaken, but I do seem to remember there are a lot of ally synergies in this set. And so if you are drafting the ally deck, this is probably a little bit better than you would expect it to be. It is also instant speed, so you can technically use this as either a combat trick or an end of turn kind of trick. And I like that a lot. It's very lucrative. It's flexible. I dig that. Honestly, I don't know if this is better or worse than Dead Reckoning, solely because I don't know the rest of the cards in the set. I feel like it's very dependent on how good that ally deck is. I'm going to keep them in the same pile for now, and we'll see what else we get. Goblin Rough Rider is a 3/2 vanilla creature for 2 and a red. Very unexciting in my opinion. It is an on-curve threat, so if you really are just considering your curve pretty heavily, which you should always do, and you really find yourself needing a 3-drop, then this is probably worth it, but it is still just a 3/2 for 3, so not much to talk about there. Only really pick this up as a filler card. Hedron Rover is a 2/2 for 4 of any color, and it has a landfall, so whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +2/+2 until the end of the turn. Very, very interesting mechanic landfall, very, very powerful in my opinion. It's really great when a mechanic rewards you for something that you are going to plan on doing regardless of what deck or what strategy you're in. Of course, you're going to be playing lands no matter what in Limited. And so getting a little bit of a bonus off of that is fantastic. That being said, this is by no means a flagship landfall card. It's still just a 2/2 for 4. Granted, it will most likely be able to get buffed at least once a turn if you're lucky, but if you're missing a land drop or something like that, it's very, very bad, and even at best, it's still kind of just a 4/4 for 4. I mean, it fits into any deck, which is nice, and there are certainly ways to get more than one land out probably in this set per turn, which in that case will be great, but in that instance, that's kind of a corner case. I don't think you should expect that, and I think we've got some better options already. Snapping Creeper is a 2/3 for 2 and a green, and it features landfall as well, so whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, the Snapping Creeper gains vigilance until the end of the turn. I like this better than the Hedron Rover, but it's still not great. I think in comparison to the other two cards that we've pulled out already, it's definitely not better. But it's an okay card. I mean, it's a 2/3 for 3, which is a little low. Giving it vigilance every turn, most likely. I say most likely because obviously you have no control over that, but if you can, you're going to be giving it vigilance most of the time, so it might be able to swing in once or twice. And I feel like if it does, it's done its job. It's probably pretty worth it at that point. So again, I think this is more of a curve consideration card, not more of like a powerhouse card, obviously. So not super excited by it. Veteran's Reflexes is an instant for 1 white. Target creature gets +1/+1 until the end of the turn, and untap that creature. I very much like this as a combat trick. It is just a combat trick, so not first pickable, but any combat trick that not only gives you a buff, but also lets you untap the creature, in my mind, is pretty good because you can really surprise your opponent, just catch them off guard very quickly with that. This only costing 1 mana, it means it's really easy to leave up as well. And so a lot of upside to a card like this. Definitely a combat trick I would want if I was in white. Halimar Excavator is a 1/3 for 1 and a blue. When it or another ally enters the battlefield under your control, target player puts the top X cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard, where X is the number of allies you control. Here we get to see how the ally mechanic works, so they basically count the number of allies that you've got on the field, and then do something based on this effect. Obviously, in this case, you're looking to mill. Mill is notoriously a lot better in limited than it is in constructed because you only have 40 cards, generally speaking, to go through instead of the normal 60. So I actually like this card quite a lot. I don't know if it's better than the cards we already have, to be honest. I think Join the Ranks is pretty great, but I do think you want the cards like this first. So I definitely think it's better than that. Dead Reckoning, I feel like, honestly, I would take the Excavator over it. I think if you can get in that mill strategy and that ally strategy early, it's probably the best thing to do because you're going to be able to just start taking as many allies as possible and hopefully really get a long way with it. Pulse Tracker is a 1/1 for 1 black. Whenever it attacks, each opponent loses 1 life. Very aggressive card. I seem to remember this being a very aggressive set in general. I like that a lot. This allows you to just start swinging in, dealing damage regardless of whether or not these creatures connect. In this case, just the Pulse Tracker, but you see what I'm saying. Very good to be able to just start dealing damage, even just on attacks. So I like this a lot. Don't know that I like it more than the Excavator. This is definitely more my style of gameplay versus something like this where it's just swinging in and dealing a bunch of damage. Still very good, but I think I would stick with the Excavator. Rolling Terrain is a sorcery for 2 and 2 red. Destroy target land, then Rolling Terrain deals damage to that land's controller equal to the number of lands in that player's graveyard. Land destruction is generally not a good strategy in Limited because it's very difficult to pull off. It's slow. It's very not great, just in general. If you're 1-for-1ing against lands, you're not doing anything about their creatures. And generally speaking, you're just going to lose the game pretty much outright. For that reason, not super excited about this card at all. Vastwood Animist is a 1/1 for 2 and a green. Tap it, and target land you control becomes an XX elemental creature token until the end of the turn, where X is the number of allies you control. It is still a land. Here again, we're getting to see that ally mechanic at work. I think this one is very good as well, being able to pump up a land and make it swing in for tons of damage depending on the number of allies you control. Absolutely fantastic. Hopefully going to be able to finish out the game for you pretty quickly. Honestly, I'm going to keep it with the Excavator because I don't know which is better. Probably the Animist, but we'll see. Shoreline Salvager is a 3/3 for 3 and a black. When it deals combat damage to a player, if you control an island, you may draw a card. I actually remember this card very vividly because I played with it a lot. It's actually not that good. It's fun. I like the fact that you get to draw a card if you're in like a blue-black strategy. I always played blue-black as a kid, so it makes sense that I would love this card. But it actually, I don't think is that good. It is a 3/3 for 4. Generally, you'll probably be able to connect with it once or twice, but I think very difficult in a lot of situations because it generally will just get outpowered pretty quickly, and then in that case, you're not going to be able to swing in. That's just my take on it. I don't know, again, the meta very well, and so I don't know if that's a correct assessment or not. Feel free to let me know down below. Spell Contortion is an instant for 2 and a blue. It has multi-kicker, so you can pay 1 and a blue, and you can pay it any number of times that you would like as you cast this spell. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 2 of any color, and then draw a card for each time Spell Contortion was kicked. I don't like this too much. It is just a straight up counter spell it's a conditional counter spell, I should say. And then drawing the cards is actually nice, but that's honestly the best part about this. I don't think that it's that good. It's probably, I mean, it's definitely a playable card, don't get me wrong. If you're in a control style deck, this is great. It's definitely something that you want. You might be able to sink a little bit of mana into this and replace it, or at the very ideal situation, draw 2, maybe even 3 cards off of it late game. But generally, if that's all you're doing in the late game, you might be losing anyway. That's a little bit of a scary thought. So I would rather have a creature, some onboard threat before taking a counterspell, just in general. And then our rare here is Seer's Sundial. It is an artifact for 4 of any color. It has landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you can pay 2 of any color, and if you do, you draw a card. Interesting card for sure. Don't think it's very good for limited. I think this is much more of like a commander style card where it's a little bit of a slower format just because everybody's kind of fighting and beating up each other. But in limited, you're really looking to beat face as much as possible, or at least establish some kind of board presence to stall the game. This card, while it does enable you to draw cards, is very much a mana sink. It's going to put you a little bit behind in that regard, and I'm not a fan of that. So not super exciting in my opinion, not a very good rare. We do have our beautiful fetch lands here, absolutely stunning. So for me, it's honestly between the Animist and the Excavator. The Animist is probably better in my opinion, so I think that's the correct pick. The Excavator is really, really sweet though if you are looking to go into that mill strategy. Honestly, because I like doing mill strategies, I would pick that, and that's 100%, I think, the wrong pick. But feel free to let me know what your opinions are in the comment section below. I'd love to have that conversation with you. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like or a comment down below anyway. And of course, please make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of our awesome content. But with that, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I will see you in the next Crack-A-Pack video.